Hi, my name is Kalia, like Kalia on the phone. I'm a self proclaimed privacy advocate, and I hope by the end of this talk, you'll be one too. A little bit about me. I've been working as a technologist and product manager for almost a decade, but social justice, service to others, and policy is what brought me into the working world. I thought that The West Wing, the TV show, was real and that I would be the first female president. Now, some of those things could still be true, but I moved into tech because I wanted to turn my values into action and build a brighter future. Yes, I know that's very cliche. I've had incredible opportunities building consumer facing products like websites or texting tools. I've been of service to my peers building internal tools for marketing or finance teams. And most recently, as head of product for technical operations, my teams build for builders. Developers are my users, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But in the endless build or buy and cost optimization conversations, my eyes start to wander. The image of that 20 something girl who used to live in a van, touring the country, spreading the word about injustice around the world, and igniting others to take action pops into my head. I am and will always be an activist and an advocate for others. But I think that as product managers, we have all chosen this path of activism. When we don't like something, we change it. It's usually having to do with a login experience or the size of a button, but you know what I mean. So if you'll indulge me for just a few minutes, I want to tell you about why I think privacy is for all of us, why it's the next big thing, and why you should care. What is privacy? Well, Webster's dictionary defines privacy as the quality or state of being apart from a company or observation, freedom from unauthorized intrusion, one's right to privacy. Drop in the chat what your definition is of privacy. No answer is wrong, too small, or too big. Now, I probably don't need to tell this audience full of incredible badass femmes and non-binary folk that privacy isn't just a headline, but is sometimes banging on our literal front doors. Privacy isn't just a piece of legislation or a setting on a browser. Privacy is a big, maybe scary concept, but its current conception as it pertains to technology is relatively new. And I hope that through breaking down some of the concepts I'll talk about today, you might be less intimidated than I was when I first started wanting to learn about privacy. Now, privacy is often associated with data. As we know, data is everywhere and it's not slowing down. From the websites we visit to the apps we use and the devices we interact with, data is being collected, processed, and analyzed every single day. I know. I used to build some products and services that tracked all of that when I was working at the Walt Disney Company. But as we continue to build and innovate, it's important, I think, to remember that privacy is a human right and it can be protected. And as product managers and strategists of how we build and productionalize digital assets, we are at the forefront of being able to protect that right. Privacy by design is a concept that I'll talk more about in a few minutes, but is something that's gained traction in recent years. It's a framework that encourages organizations to incorporate privacy protections throughout the entire product development process. It means designing products and services that are built with privacy in mind rather than shoving in features and services and changes after. At its core, privacy by design is about putting our users first and ensuring that their privacy is protected. It's about giving our users control over their personal data and being transparent about how that data is collected, used, and shared. I think that it's about building trust with our users, showing them that we are committed to protecting their privacy. As product managers, I believe that we have a unique role to play in advocating for privacy by designs. We're the ones writing the tickets. We're the ones defining the requirements and defining the product vision and strategy. We make day-to-day decisions about what features should and shouldn't be included, what functionality we should offer our customers, and we are ultimately the ones who are responsible for ensuring that our products are successful in the market. But here's the thing, if all of this is sounding overwhelming to you, I understand. When I first started dipping my toe into the world of privacy, I was overwhelmed. I thought, I'm a girl who used to work on policy. I work on small little features and services. I didn't have a graduate degree and master's. I'm not a lawyer. I don't specialize in cybersecurity. The closest I've gotten to knowing anything about security is the famed Angelina Jolie movie Hackers. But here's the thing, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. You don't have to be a privacy expert to make an impact. You don't need to have deep technical understanding of data privacy laws, or complex security protocols to advocate for privacy by design. All you need is a willingness to learn and a commitment to making privacy a priority. And in case you were wondering, you've already made one big step by joining this talk and being open to listening and learning more about privacy and privacy by design. Now, let's throw in some keywords here. I'm going to attach a worksheet that will have a little glossary with some of the most commonly used buzzwords I hear around privacy. In the chat, drop in some privacy-related words that you have heard or maybe you don't fully understand in the chat, and I'll try my best to respond during our live Q&A session or live during the rest of this chat. Now, the first big scary one that I've always heard that I didn't know anything about what it meant was GDPR, which stands for the General Data Protection Regulation. Now, that big scary thing is just a piece of legislation, or rather a piece of law that governs the EU, and was one of the first major mandates that protected any data privacy in terms of data on the internet or with digital assets. Now, you might hear other variations of this. California was one of the first states to be able to have their own consumer data privacy protection in the United States. As of the recording of this talk in April of 2023, there were no nationwide consumer privacy mandates in the United States. I'll stop there to just let that sink in. And so that means that it's not too late to learn. I'm talking to you about just one major EU regulation and the few states that might have consumer data privacy laws. So if you might be thinking, I'm not a lawyer, I don't have an expertise in the law, I don't know what's going on. Well, guess what? It's going on all around you right now, and it's not too late to catch up. Another word that I hear, or two acronyms in particular that I hear a lot, and I'll double check to see if I see them in the chat, is PHI or PII. PHI stands for personal health information. Think about things like HIPAA, which have to do with privacy around your medical records and information. And PII pertains to privacy, personally identifiable information as well. Say that 5 times fast. These are just some of the words that you might see in different pieces of updates or newsletters, and they might come a little bit and make you a little bit nervous. Just to break them down, there's actually not that many. And again, I'll include a worksheet with some of the most common ones, and please continue to drop the ones that confuse you and stump you in the chat. Okay, I promised a little bit more information about privacy by design. So privacy by design is in no way my own creation. Dr. Kevoikian, or Anne Kevoikian, is the author of the Privacy by Design approach to systems engineering. I promise it's not. I think it sounds sexy, but maybe systems engineering sounds boring to you. Stick with me. I promise it gets good. Now, we certainly don't have enough time to go through the entire framework. It's incredibly robust. And if you ever want to geek out about data privacy, please send me a DM on LinkedIn or via the Hopin app, and I would love to chat more. But I want to talk about one of her 7 foundational concepts that I think ring true and you can put into direct action today. Number 1, proactive, not reactive. Preventative, not remedial. What does that mean? I think it means do something before you have to do something. And so being forced to take action is often the way that we see companies and organizations respond to privacy-related technology legislation and changes. But I think that that's a little too late. I think that we should act now. And so that's a little acronym I've created to be able to think about how you can put privacy by design into effect today. The first is A, ask questions. I've always thought that the pursuit of true knowledge yields more questions than it does answers. For any of you who have burning privacy questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll try my best to respond. But you should be asking questions at every step of every process, not just about privacy, but in general. We're product managers. We always want to get to the why. We want to understand our users, their pain points, what's going on with our technical partners, what blockers do they have, what prioritization decisions do they have to make. Privacy is not like different than any other element of the product design process. We just have to ask questions. You can start by educating yourself on privacy best practices, data protection laws, and there's lots of online resources. If you're like me and book yourself from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Or 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah, that's probably the honest Freudian slip, but I meant to say 5 p.m. You don't have a ton of time to be reading through pieces of legislation. So my hack is to follow folks on Instagram and on LinkedIn that are privacy thought leaders. That way, when they share articles, I can read the little excerpts that they share on the top, or I can just read the headlines of some of the articles that they share. For those of you that are also neurodiverse, sometimes finding the time to sit down and read an entire article feels pretty overwhelming. And so just try to get a little bit of exposure to information. I'll also drop in my resource some links to some newsletters that I subscribe to, specifically in the healthcare space, since that's the space that I work in now, and as it pertains to privacy. But there's lots of organizations and companies that spend time thinking about these topics and help collate some of these summaries for you so that you don't have to. These things exist, and there's lots of industry associations and government agencies that do this service already, so just take advantage. The second area where you can continue to ask questions is being really deeply engaged in the development process. When a developer shows you a feature or service that you're rolling out, ask about things like, do users have the option to opt in or opt out? What pieces of data could be provided? Will this experience be different for folks that are experiencing this in the US or abroad? As we all know, requirements for our products, depending on the industry, change from country to country. For example, when I was working on releasing Disney Plus across the world, we had different regulations for folks that were going to be enjoying that product in the EU versus in the US. This is, again, part of the natural product development process, so it shouldn't be too much extra work. You just have a little bit of a different point of view when you're asking those questions. Also, make sure that you're working with your legal and compliance teams and asking questions about when we're including them, which takes me to C of ACT, consult others. There are experts inside of your company, perhaps, but definitely around the world. And I'll have named a few of them in my resource. For one, I have an incredible privacy connection. Her name is Laura DeLu. She is not only a privacy maven, and I met her during my time at the Walt Disney Company, but she is an active blogger. She constantly attends podcasts and talks, and I learned more and more about her every day and her opinion on privacy. And once you find folks that you trust, you can continue to follow them and be able to consult experts. But your legal and compliance and security teams are great people for you to befriend. They usually will share your interest in figuring out answers. But the one word of caution I will make is that not all of your companies are going to have these resources. Or more troublesome, they might not care. And it's not because they're bad companies, but privacy often falls below the line, as we say in product world. Most of the time, it's because they haven't had a pressing need to be able to build up this expertise. That's okay. Don't stop asking questions. Don't stop consulting others. This is not a problem that's going to go away. If you've been paying attention at all to recent news headlines, more and more organizations and companies are starting to administer real fines as a result of violating consumer privacy. And customer bases are becoming more and more educated about what's going on in terms of their privacy. And so this will become a real and apparent requirement that we'll have to grapple as product managers. And so if your company doesn't have the expertise, ask them to go get you trained. Be the advocate for privacy by design at your company so that you can share the knowledge and insight that you gain, but that you can leverage those around you to be able to build privacy as a culture within your own company, which takes me to T of ACT. Talk about it. Privacy should not be a dirty P word. It should not be taboo. We should be able to talk about privacy as to other product managers, to developers, to our legal team. And that's what I really mean when I say privacy for all. all of us have an opinion when it comes to our personal information, how we value our customers, how we value our users, how we protect them, how we ensure that they have the most fair and equitable experience to our products and services. And for us, and for me especially as a woman of color, there are very few folks that look and sound like me that are advocating for consumer privacy. I've had the distinguished pleasure to be able to work with in the last year and a half with more back-end engineers that work in DevOps and security and compliance than I ever have before. And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of the same kind of folks. And I'm sure if I painted you a picture of what that room looked like, you could name exactly what it looks like. And there's not a lot of faces that look like mine or necessarily yours in those rooms. And so nothing is better than educating yourself, learning from really smart people, and starting to become an advocate and thought leader inside of your own organization. Just like in every other space of product development, we need women of color, and folks of diverse thought and lived experiences to be really, truly advocating for privacy throughout the entire product development process. Now, if I haven't convinced you yet, I'm not sure what else will, but when we think about the concept and the theme of this conference about what comes next, I truly believe that privacy and privacy by design are going to be essential components of how we continue to build products and services. And so I would love to hear from all of you if you also agree that privacy is and will continue to be at the forefront of big problems that we have to solve. I'll throw a little poll inside the chat to hear back from you. Okay, lots of information we covered today. But in conclusion, I believe that product managers, we all have a responsibility to protect our users' privacy and their security. Longtime advocate here, and I think you are as well. But we can prioritize privacy by design so that we can build better products, create trust with our users, and be able to protect their fundamental right to privacy. And remember, you don't have to be an expert to make a difference. The legislation, the information is all being built right now. You can play a part of shaping how you can take a part in deciding how our technology and development processes are shaped by this, by learning and taking action. Thank you so much for your time. And I want to give a big thank you to everyone at Women in Product for allowing me to talk about privacy. I hope that you're walking away from this session more confident, more knowledgeable, and ready to act. I'm really excited to continue this conversation and invite you to our live Q&A session today. Please join me at 2 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time to continue this conversation. You can all find me on LinkedIn. I'm always excited to talk about anything data privacy or privacy related, and excited to hear what you all have to think about today's session. Thank you so much again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.